Hi everyone, Jeff Lee here, Program Director of TMASF Connects. I am joined by TMASF Connect staff members Jen Pollard, Chief Operating Officer, and Shirley Lin, Marketing Associate. Today, we are discussing the efforts of SFMTA that builds on their legacy of offering successful commute trips and reflects best practices refined during the COVID-19 pandemic. We would like to thank Jeffrey Tumlin, SFMTA's Director of Transportation, for taking time to talk with us today. TMASF Connects has supported the use of public transportation services in the Bay Area and its benefits for the past 30 years. We are a privately funded nonprofit that promotes alternatives to driving alone. In this interview series, we'd like to discuss and highlight measures SFMTA has taken to welcome commuters back as they return or try the Muni system. From our most recent commuter behavior survey, taken pre-pandemic 2020, 30% of our association members take Muni as part of their daily trip. Jeffrey, you're an urban planner by trade with over 20 years of experience in the transportation world. You've also written a book on the subject, Sustainable Transportation, Tools for Creating Healthy, Vibrant, and Resilient Communities. As San Francisco natives and residents, we're thrilled to have that type of expertise at SFMTA and honored to have you here with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Next, we'd like to talk about Muni's commuting policies. Primarily, we want to focus on aspects of the commuter experience. We would like to mention that we've done extensive research on the topic, but the questions we're posing are for commuters that are either returning or may not be frequent riders of the system. So first off, Muni has undergone a number of service changes during the pandemic. I've talked about this a little bit earlier during the introduction, but what can you tell commuters about service in the present day and the frequency of Muni vehicles, especially during commute hours?
So as I said earlier, the COVID period is the worst financial crisis that our agency has ever experienced in its 110-year history. And we just last March, got an additional $115 million in federal relief money that allows us to really finally begin our recovery. We had been in a hiring freeze for nearly 2 years. We have over 1,000 vacancies. And so we're working hard to fill all those positions. And what that means is right now we're only delivering about 75% of our pre-COVID Muni service hours. And several of our transit lines are still not in operation. As we have been recovering, we've had to make some really hard choices about to what degree do we try to restore all of the lines that were operating in 2019 versus to what degree do we accommodate the dramatic change in travel patterns that COVID has produced? So for example, the downtown office district is still mostly vacant. Most of those offices, people are coming in a little bit, but that was the bulk of our ridership in 2019, and much of that ridership is gone. Meanwhile, lines like the 22 Fillmore that runs circumferentially around the downtown has over 100% of pre-COVID ridership on the weekdays, and is up to nearly 150% of pre-COVID ridership weekends.
Wow.
So for these lines that have served essential workers and have served our lower income neighborhoods, we have been adding extra frequency, better service, faster service, and more reliable service since about the middle of 2020 as we've been rebuilding the system. We've added about 20 miles of new transit-only lanes on these lines in order to improve their speed and reliability. And that is having a big positive impact on ridership for those lines. So if your Muni line is one of our core lines and you haven't ridden it in a while, you may be surprised to find that your commute is faster and better than it was pre-COVID. That said, there's a bunch of lines that I mentioned, some of our community service lines that may be a block or two closer. Those lines may not yet be fully running. We're going to be restoring a whole array of lines on July 9th, and then doing another tranche of restorations in November as we hire and train new operators. And we're expecting about every quarter to do another round of Muni service improvements. And will probably take us about 2 years to get the full system fully restored, because hiring and training in San Francisco is slow. And we need to make sure that our new operators are fully trained. Other things you may find are that for most of our main lines, we've dramatically reduced the bunching of buses. So our buses are much more evenly spaced than they were back in 2015. And you'll also find some other interesting new programs, like Muni is now free for all kids in San Francisco, and it remains free for seniors and people with disabilities. Given the fact that the Muni system isn't yet fully restored, there will also not be any fare increase for the next 2 years.
Very good to know. Thank you.
So for those that do not live in San Francisco and they must take other transit agencies, could you describe their last mile transit options? And then in addition, is Muni scheduled time to line up with those other agencies like BART, Caltrain, or even the San Francisco Bay Ferry?
Yeah, good questions. So for the most part, our Muni main lines are operating really frequently. They're running, every 3 to 10 minutes. So it's usually pretty easy to make a connection. And if you look at the Muni map, the red lines and the thicker lines are the ones that are the most frequent. So most likely, those are going to be the ones that you want to transfer to, because there's going to be a bus or a train departing pretty quickly. So if you're coming in on Caltrain and you want to quickly get downtown, you've got a lot of choices. Extremely high frequency buses leaving from 4th and Townsend, as well as Judah trains heading into the Market Street subway. And in fact, this fall, the T3rd trains that currently operate in the Embarcadero will be going into the central subway. So if you're getting off on Caltrain, you can transfer to the T, and that'll take you right to Union Square and to Chinatown. But you also have a lot of other choices. So here in San Francisco, we've got a public bike share system operated by Bay Wheels, and we have 3 different scooter operators that offer low-cost scooters in order to help you make your last mile connections. We've also, during COVID, dramatically upgraded the bikeway network, particularly in the South of Market. We've added protected bikeways on 2nd, 5th, 7th, and 8th Streets, as well as Howard and Folsom Streets. And there are no longer any general public cars on Market Street. So downtown San Francisco is a lot easier to use on foot, on a bike, on a scooter, or a skateboard, however you want to get around. We encourage you to explore all of those options, and you can go to our website at sfmta.com for more details.
Thank you.
Exciting news. I'm just curious, but can you tell us if there are any changes that are implemented or is planned for Muni service to go to SFO?
Oh, to SFO? BART goes to SFO from downtown San Francisco in the Mission District. And BART is improving that connection from San Francisco to SFO, and it is your best option getting to and from the airport.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, well, as SFMTA, we know shares a number of stations with BART. Do you have the similar pet and bike policies?
Good question. So some ways they're similar, in some ways a little bit different. So it is easy to take your bike on BART. You can take your bike on any BART car except for the first car, the one that the operator is in. And there are special spaces set aside for bikes that allow you to clip the bike to the handrail. So please do think about taking your bike on BART. It's a great way for getting around San Francisco once you get here, and to go for great adventures like exploring car-free JFK. On our Muni trains, we don't have enough space. Our trains are only 2-car trains where BART has 10-car trains. So we don't have enough space to allow bikes on our rail cars. But Muni does have bike racks on the front of every single bus. So if you live in a hilly neighborhood or want to avoid a hill, putting your bike on any of our buses is a great option, and it's really easy to do. Again, if you Google bikes on Muni, there's a little tutorial about how to use those racks.
Okay. Also, I wanted to ask, would you review with us any other policies that maybe the commuters need to know to ensure a comfortable ridership experience with Muni?
So we strongly recommend wearing masks on Muni. Masks are no longer required, but they make everyone a lot safer. I always wear an N95 mask when I'm riding transit, and that is most every day. So please do, if you can get them, get an N95 mask and make sure that it is well fitted around your nose, around your face. That will help protect you, and it also helps to protect other riders. Other than that, just make sure that you get your Clipper card. Make sure that you're aware of any discount policies you may be eligible for as a result of being a youth or a senior or somebody with a disability, or people with lower incomes. The Lifeline program is available throughout the region and provides very deep discounts for low-income individuals. We strongly encourage you to take advantage of those programs.
Okay.
And with increased sanitation procedures and continually increasing services as we kind of hopefully leave the pandemic, how has public feedback been? And would you like to share any of it?
Sure. We get a lot of public feedback, and we strongly encourage public feedback as well. If you Google SFMTA Muni feedback, there is a feedback form where you can offer complaints as well as commendations. And one thing that I would just love to point out is when our operators or our custodians or station agents or anyone in the agency gets a commendation, we make sure that that information gets directly to that employee, and it is often like something that that employee will talk about for years. So if one of our people goes above and beyond the call of duty, please do let us know, and then we can let them know as well. We also want to know when there's a problem. It's only by hearing from our riders that we know how to direct our limited management resources in order to make the system better. So please do report. You can also use the SF311 app for reporting anything out there in the system. It's what I use to report, for example, broken glass pane in one of our bus shelters. The 311 app automatically geolocates the spot and then sends that data directly to our contractor, Clear Channel, who's able then to get out and replace those broken panels or whatever very quickly. Please send us feedback. Oh, and in terms of what we hear a lot of complaints. Obviously, people have a very high expectation for the transportation system in San Francisco. Some of my favorite, more recent complaints have been multiple people complaining to me that the new Van Ness busway is getting them to their appointments too early, and they're having to kill time at the other end of their ride because their ride was too fast. And that's probably exactly the kind of complaints that I want to hear.
Okay, well, we will touch base on that momentarily. As we begin to wrap up, are there any other SFMTA resources you would like to highlight for people assessing a return to commuting? And what would you tell them to try transit again and leave their car keys at home?
I love taking transit, and I take transit almost every day because it is, for me, so much less stressful than driving. It gives me time to collect my thoughts. I catch up on a lot of email. It's also kind of part of my job to be checking in on our system every day. And while it was strange for me getting back on transit after having been in lockdown, I feel completely safe. It's one of the things that I love about being in San Francisco is, for the most part, we San Franciscans know how to take care of each other and how to be respectful of each other. Public transit is one of the last great places in America where everyone ends up. We see all walks of life on public transit, every type of person, every kind of belief system. And it reminds us of what we have in common. And that's something that our democracy really needs in order for our democracy to survive, is that we have to remember that we all have something in common and a responsibility to our neighbors and other residents. So come back to transit.
Thank you for that touching monologue, and thank you for the update on policy and the commuter experience on Muni. Looking ahead, what do you think commuters should be aware about when taking the Muni system? And what I mean by that is, are there any new or upcoming projects you'd like to mention? I know you mentioned the Central Subway project a little bit earlier, as well as the Van Ness Improvement Project.
Yeah, so we have a lot of changes happening in the transit system. So just a month ago, we opened the Van Ness busway, which is making transit about 30% faster than it was before, really exceeding the goals we have for the project, in addition to actually helping to make traffic for cars flow more smoothly along Van Ness Avenue, because the bus isn't constantly weaving in and out between the outside lane and the curb. We are still on track to open the Central Subway this fall. That's an extension of the T3 line from Mission Bay through South of Market to the Moscone Center to Union Square and to Chinatown. We're continuing to expand transit-only lanes and carpool lanes on city streets throughout the city in order to make transit faster, more frequent, and more reliable. And about every 3 months, we'll be upgrading lines or improving frequency on existing lines as we hire and train new operators and get them out there into the field. So transit will be getting a little better every single month from here through the next 2 years. We're also continuing to work on major projects like completely rebuilding the El Taraval line. We're in the midst of upgrading the 38 Geary. All of these projects, I would note, are on time and on budget, the ones that we're working on now. And we're finishing two very well-known projects that did run about 15% over budget.
Thank you. That wraps it up for our conversation with Muni for now. Thank you once again, Jeffrey Tumlin, SFMTA's Director of Transportation, for taking time to answer our questions. And thank you to Jen and Shirley as well for joining me today.